boys and girls, we are going to take a little tour of our classroom instruments. Now, there's different categories for instruments, and we call those instrument families, and there's actually 4 instrument families. So the first one we'll talk about are the string instrument family, and then we've got woodwind instruments, and we've got brass instruments, and last is percussion instruments. Now, string instruments, very easy to know which instruments belong in the string family because they have to have strings. So, can you think of a string instrument? Hint, hint. Miss Gutierrez's favorite instrument. The ukulele is a string instrument, but there are others as well, such as guitar, which is a larger, looking like a ukulele instrument, but played differently. We've also got violin instrument played with a bow. We have what's called a cello, which is larger than a violin, and the player actually has to sit in a chair because the cello sits on the floor, and it is also played with a bow. And then the largest string instrument is called the string bass, or also known as the double bass. And that one is so big that the player actually has to stand up because the instrument touches the floor and play with a bow. Now, there are other instruments that have strings. Can you think of some other ones? Did anybody say the banjo? That one is a good string instrument. Anybody else say a harp? The harp where you have to pluck the strings? Those are also some different string instruments. So remember, string instruments, they have to have strings. The next family we're going to talk about is the woodwind family. Now, Miss Gutierrez unfortunately does not have very many woodwind instruments, but woodwind instruments are instruments that you have to use your air or your wind to make them play. Now, we can think of a few, such as the flute or maybe the clarinet. A woodwind instrument, though, most of them use a little piece of wood called a reed, and the reed is what helps make the sound come out of the instrument. So for example, if you did not have a reed on your clarinet or your oboe, then when you went to play it, even if you blew so strong into it, it will not make a sound. So you need that little mouthpiece, the reed. However, there are some woodwinds that don't use a reed, such as the flute, or even like my slide whistle. This would still be a woodwind instrument because I have to use my wind to make it play. Next instrument family we'll talk about is the brass family. And again, unfortunately, Ms. Gutierrez doesn't have any brass instruments in her classroom, but a few brass instruments that we can name would include a trumpet, a trombone, a tuba, which is the biggest brass instrument. And the way you know an instrument is a brass instrument, not only by its color, which mostly you'll see it like a gold looking color, but by the mouthpiece. The mouthpiece on a brass instrument is in the shape of a circle, and the player actually puts their mouth inside of that circle and blows to make it play. But they don't blow just like a regular, they do a funny kind of blow. They press their lips together really, really tightly, and then they press the air through so it sounds like this. Try that. Now, it sounds funny, right? But that's actually what the players are doing when their mouth is inside of that mouthpiece. We can call that buzzing your lips when you're playing on a brass instrument. And finally, the percussion family. Now, this one's awesome because all the instruments that you see behind me on my instrument shelf are all percussion. So there are so many percussion instruments in the percussion family. So here's a rule. It's a percussion instrument if you have to hit it, tap it, shake it, or scrape it to make it play. So I'm going to take you on a little tour of some of our classroom percussion instruments. We'll start off with, here's one of my favorites. We have the wooden frog. He's got a bumpy back, and he comes with this stick, and we're gonna scrape his back as Doesn't that sound cool? It's actually supposed to sound like the real big frog sound that it makes. So this is percussion because we are scraping it. Another fun percussion instrument, what are these called? Maracas. So these are shakers. I've got a whole bunch of different shakers, but I'm sure we're very familiar with maracas because maracas are popular in Mexico and we live right next to Mexico. In fact, some of you go to Mexico all the time, right? Now here's a cool percussion instrument. What does this look like? Looks like two spoons back to back, right? These spoon instruments are not for eating your cereal. They are for tapping. And I love this because you can tap them on your hand, you can tap them on your tummy, you can tap them on your leg, you can tap them on your head. Super cool double spoons percussion because you have to tap them or hit them. Sounds like Santa's coming. These are some jingle bells. And why are they percussion instruments? Because we have to shake them to make them play. A lot of our Christmas holiday songs you'll hear some jingle bells. Here's another cool percussion instrument. This is made out of seeds that come off of a special tree. And we just shake it together. It makes that really cool sound. So it's percussion because you shake it. Some more shaker instruments. These are called wicker shakers because they're made out of a wicker material, kind of like what you'd find on a basket. Here's another type of bell. This one kind of sounds like a cowbell. It's a little bit different. However, I do really have a real cowbell. Here's a real cowbell. Warning, super loud. Ooh, that hurts my ears. Anybody know what this is called? A tambourine. And a tambourine can be played two ways. You can either shake it or you can tap it because it's also got like a drum head right here. So we can tap it with our hand, we can shake it, we can tap it on our lap. Anybody know what these are called? These are called cymbals, and these are actually little baby cymbals. We call them finger cymbals. And the way we play these are to just pass them along as they kind of clip the ends of each other to make that ringing sound. Now, I'm sure you've seen big cymbals where the player crashes them together like that. That's also another percussion instrument, but these are the finger cymbals, and that's how we make those play. This is called a guiro. It's also a scraper instrument. So we've got our other wooden stick, and we can scrape it, but we can also make a cool rhythm as we scrape. So you can scrape and tap. This is a wood block, and the cool thing about this wood block is as you tap it, what does that sound like to you? Sounds like a clock to me. It sounds like a tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock. So because they're both different sizes, they make a different tone. The larger one sounds a little bit lower than the smaller one. You hear the difference? Did you know you can make your own instruments at home? In fact, Ms. Gutierrez made these at my own house. I made these last Earth Day. Some of us had a project to create our own instruments out of recycled products. So inside of the paper that I colored are some aluminum cans, and inside the cans, I put some beans, some pinto beans, and then I covered them up with paper and taped them up at the top, and now I've got my own homemade shakers. So here is a challenge for you. Can you go and create your own homemade percussion instrument? Remember the rules. You either have to be able to tap it, hit it, scrape it, or shake it. I can't wait to see the percussion instrument that you come up with.